we're going. I want to make sure we're, providing content that's, helps people think, whatever the
Right.
subject turns into, that whoever's here can,
Yeah.
bring something to the table to open even, obviously my eyes and make me
Right.
think about shit differently, or
Yeah.
help me understand something I didn't even know about, or
Right.
something I was lacking understanding in. So
Yeah, at least,
that's why I'm kind of cautious about, like, okay, if we're gonna have so and so on, what are they gonna bring to the table? What do they have some knowledge in that would benefit listeners?
I think you never really know until someone's sitting in that chair and the
Well,
conversation takes off. Because, you know what I mean? Like, someone's got a whole life of living and experience. And since nothing's scripted or like bullet points of everything we're going to go through and talk about, because it's just such an organic conversation, I mean, you just don't know. You know what I mean? I think, like, they always have some unique experience of something they went through in life that I didn't or you didn't, or a unique perspective of it. So I guess maybe looking for someone that can articulate it,
yeah,
maybe,
I mean,
right? Yeah,
um,
I guess that would make sense, but
well, and the fact that, to have some kind of, like with Adam, I know
yeah,
I seen where his life was and what it turned into, the
sure,
resilience, the you know introspective look inward that he
yeah.
had to change his life around and realize where his faults were, and to
You
make
already
something
had an
better.
idea of kind of where that would probably go,
Right, and I could see how that could benefit people out there that
right,
are in his old situation and trying to figure out how to better their lives and get
sure,
out of that situation, or they're going through a divorce and they think it's the end of the world like he did,
right.
and realizing that, oh, it's
Life
not the
goes
end of the
on.
world,
Yeah.
so someone like that can share.
Hmm.
And that's what I mean, like, I just need some confidence in the guest that
Yeah.
they actually have something to bring of value to the
Hmm.
people that are going to listen to it.
Right.
I know everybody has a story and everybody's lived a life and everybody has different experiences, but it doesn't mean necessarily they have value in those stories that could help someone
Yeah.
else unless they understand themselves.
Right.
Because if you're in a bad place and you're doing drugs and sleeping with prostitutes and fucking bouncing from job to job and you don't have your shit together, we can have somebody sitting here explaining that, and someone's gonna be sitting there on YouTube listening, drinking a beer, going, "Sounds like me."
Right.
Okay, well, if that person hasn't changed it, how does the person listening?
Right.
And that's more to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have no problem with, and I've thought about this before. It was actually what really got me thinking about the podcast is we went to a funeral, and this lady there was 80, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Very, I don't even know what word to use. Very, very outgoing. This woman's obviously lived a colorful life
Sure.
because, she asked me, she's like, oh, how are you related? And I'm like, oh, through so and so. And she's like, you have no idea the amount of beer I drink in your aunt and uncle's basement. They
Right.
used to have the best parties down there, And I was like, right then I thought, I wish I could sit down and record that lady's life because I could tell
Right.
within 5 minutes of talking
It's
to her, this
interesting.
lady's had an interesting freaking
Yeah.
life, right?
Hmm.
And that's something that I've even thought, like, that might be something we'll have to talk about pursuing down the
Yeah.
road because, maybe just sprinkle that in
Hmm.
every 3 months. Someone like that, someone old
Right.
that's lived, very colorful life, that's had a lot of experiences, and
Yeah. Be
what
interesting.
you take someone that was born in
I just think
1940, right?
you're never gonna, are we rolling?
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've
Hey,
been
what's up,
going
y'all?
for a couple minutes.
Happy birthday to my niece and happy birthday to my sister-in-law.
Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, ring the bell for
Yeah.
notifications. We're on all the social media platforms.
Yep. Help us out.
Yeah.
So back to where we were at. I don't think you ever. I think people can surprise you sometimes. The stories that you can pull out of them that maybe they didn't even realize, and kind of spin the conversation off. I know our conversations most of the time go in directions I didn't expect it to.
Right.
I don't know. I think
I'm not saying there's not value there.
Right.
I
think that shot in the dark is kind of fun for me because going into it blind like that and just not even knowing. Of course, with Adam, we had an idea. Me and him had some history because, you kind of paired us up, helped me through some stuff. So we had an idea that we'd go down that rabbit hole. But I don't know. I think the idea of just setting someone down and having just oblivious, right? Kind of fun, to me. But I see your point.
I'm not saying. I guess I'm just at this point in my life, I'm trying to look for answers to questions I have.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole idea of this, right? Was to challenge you, challenge me, slow us down, make us think, hopefully get other people to think, right? Not tell them what to think, but just tell them to think. For sure.
And I have so many freaking questions, and like, I don't know how we get those kind of people on here, right? That can answer questions for us, that can sit down and maybe break apart like dreams, for instance, and say,
right.
Oh, well, this could be what,
sure,
why you have this dream. This is, could be some meanings behind it. This could be, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. It'd be interesting to get that kind of person on.
Right.
It'd be kind of interesting to get someone that could drill down on economics on, right?
Right.
Because we had
someone that's stronger with it than I am or you are, right?
Right, because we had our meeting at work the other day for our open enrollment for health benefits, and our 401k guy was there, and and he briefly talked, and he was like, again, I'm not an economist, so I don't know, right?
Right.
But my spidey senses are tingling right now with this economy.
Sure.
Okay. And he was like, obviously, he was painting a nice picture of
bullish.
Well, he's saying we understand it's, we're probably in a recession, and on average, recession last about 14 months.
Right.
We're 12 months into this one, acting like we only have 2 more months, and then we're going to be going up.
Yeah,
and
I don't know about that.
Right. And I'm like, okay, maybe.
For the typical recession.
Right.
I don't think this is the typical
one.
And
though, that's
right. But I mean, it's their job to put the happy spin and keep people pouring money into
And I get, it is a great buying opportunity. If you have the extra money, it is a great buying opportunity.
Might be better 2 months from now.
Right. So I mean, I'm still contributing to my 401k because obviously I'm getting more shares per dollar now than I was in 2019, right?
Right.
So
and anyone that's forecasting out, right? Because me and you dug into that once about, investment and 401ks and just how many people lost their ass. And if you got time to recover, I mean, like long-term looking out, just those are long-term investments.
Right.
The people I felt bad for, and I meant to circle back to that during that podcast, was like the people that were at that age. You know what I mean? That they're getting ready to close out now. And now they can't, you know what I mean? Like, I felt bad because there was a lot of wealth that just was gone.
But,
if I would have been 65, I would have been pissed,
But if you have a good financial advisor, even the way mine's set up, by the time I'm to 65 in my retirement, it's progressive, right?
Yeah,
so the younger you are, the more aggressive, it automatically
they start transitioning those stocks out.
Right. So by the time you're 65, it's like.
But some of them people are picking their own, right? And that's the danger.
And they should have consulted with their financial advisor. And luckily my work offers that. That guy comes in like every quarter and you can have one-on-one meetings with him.
Yeah, that's cool.
And, you know, and he'll tell you where you're at and where he thinks things are going. And so I'm not saying, I'm not
watching wealth disappear from, you know, especially from middle class.
Yeah.
Like, there's just not much of a middle class left, you know, and I don't know. I kept seeing these reports about, you know, seniors or elderly people just flooding back into the workforce. And I thought, well, you know, I haven't seen a lot of that myself. So I started paying more attention and I was like, wow, you know what? I am seeing more of that. And it just, I mean, I guess it gives them something to do. I'm sure some of them enjoy it, but man, it just seems so ass backwards that, you know, in your end days, I just wish no one was stressed then. You know what I mean?
Okay, like, but and you're right. For the people that have to, I feel terrible, but not everyone has to.
No, not everybody.
Because I know. Gosh, it's hard to say the number right now. Just off the top of my head, I know 3 retirees that still work. Because after the first year or two of, it's like, okay, now what am I gonna do, right? Like, I took a couple vacations, I've slept in, I've done this and that. Like, okay, 2 years, and what I think's happening now is people are living longer. Yeah. Now they don't want to necessarily be tied to a 9 to 5, you know, limited vacation time. I think they're more casual, where they still can get up, they can go do this job, maybe something a little more rewarding with helping others, you know, but they're still getting a little pay, and they're still, you know, but they're not tied to where it's a financial necessity.
Like one of the people that I knew that ended up back in there was, and there's a couple of them that just are in these low-paying jobs that they're not treated very well. And I mean, like the one defense I guess they have is like, you know, they'll throw out as, well, I don't really need this job. I'll quit, you know. But people that age typically don't, because they're hardworking anyways, and more responsible. And some of them technically really can't quit. Like they need that subsidized, right? They need to fill in that gap. But I mean, they can bluff their way through it. But it just seems like some of them people are not. If you can find something you really enjoy doing, and you know you're supplementing your income a little bit, and it gives you something to, you know, get up every day, because we talked about that. You know, people that just have no reason to get up, they tend to not live as long.
We brought the statistics up, right?
So
that sedentary lifestyle leads to a quick death, especially the older you are.
I hope that a lot of them people that are doing it because they want to and not because they have to. But I guess the other end of it is it did help the economy some, because somehow we lost a chunk of workforce. Like, you know, no one can hire enough people. They just don't seem to be there all of a sudden. And some of those seniors are kind of backfilling those positions. But I just hate to just, you know, go through a drive-through to get a cheeseburger and you see some, you know, 78-year-old person working in there that probably doesn't want to be.
This is where
that sucks. I feel bad for them, you know.
And this is where little sirens go off in my head, is when I see the corporate media talking about this.
Sure.
Okay, so then I start getting suspicious when they start pushing the narrative of all these seniors have to go back to work because they can't afford it. Then I said the 3 seniors I know that are retired are doing it because they want to have something to do. So automatically, you know, my little conspiracy switch starts going, okay, what's the real story here? How is the media manipulating this?
Probably somewhere in the middle, I would imagine. You know,
like I said,
probably lies in the middle.
I believe you can only go on so many vacations, do so much shit for so many years, 5, 6 years of complete freedom from not being tied to a job before you're like, well, I might live another 15 years. What am I going to do now? Like, I'm just kind of.
And some do it for, you know, to bring back a social life, right? Like
exactly. That's what I'm saying. To get out,
people, to be able to talk to, you know, other adults. God knows I can appreciate that desire, right? Of just adult human interaction, you know, and I spend a lot of my time talking to a 2-year-old, so then it's a treat to talk to, you know, an adult.
So like I said, I feel terrible for anybody at
Yeah.
that stage of their life that has to work. But then, are we free people to make free choices, or are we going to move into socialism to
Right.
where, oh, so what do we do here? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we
Oh
can't
yeah,
have it.
no doubt, man. I'm not arguing for like some government intervention, and you know me. The
I know,
less
but
government, the better. But
that's
it
where
just it
when you
still
start,
doesn't stop me from noticing something that's it's just sad to see. I'm not saying it shouldn't be allowed. Like we should be free to succeed or fail
right,
ourselves.
right,
I don't want some big, thick, huge safety net. Encompassing every aspect of your life. Obviously, there's got to be some sort of basic safety net,
which we do, right?
which we
is Social
have,
Security and
right?
Medicare, and so how do I think it's education again.
Yeah,
it's just
well,
we need better
sure.
financial education earlier in school.
They used to teach it,
yeah. But they've still never really. Even I took economics, but there wasn't a financial guy. They didn't pound it into year after year. Have a financial guy come in.
Sure.
Now both my employers have. My previous employer, every year a financial guy came in and pounded into us about investing and saving and keeping your debt low. But that wasn't until later in adulthood.
Yeah.
Like
by then, a lot of people's already acquired debt, and
and so I think that's something that needs to be.
Me, I'm gonna end up working till I tip over. I've accepted that. Like we brought up Social Security, the safety net.
Yeah.
Will it even be there when either one of us are old enough to collect on it? Who knows? They robbed the fund so bad. Taking money out of there, allocate it to other shit. Like I think if that's our safety net, it should be untouchable.
Yeah.
Just that's what it's for.
Yeah.
The government keep their dirty little mitts out of it. They're not going to borrow against it. To prop up something else. Like, yeah, we could definitely do a better job. Making sure that the net we do have is good. But yeah, I think people should be free to succeed or fail on their own. I don't want the government infiltrating every aspect of my life because they know better. I don't believe they do. I think you know better about your life than anyone else. So let you make the choices you're gonna make.
Right. And
it's sad though.
It is, but that's back to where we kind of I don't know how I keep getting hooked in this spiral of personal accountability. But again, like I'm not blaming anybody for my financial decisions.
Right.
I wholeheartedly accept them. I don't blame the government. I don't blame the school. I'm a grown ass adult. I know when I spend money if I have the money to spend or not.
Sure.
I make those decisions. Nobody made them for me.
Yeah, especially your day to day, life and living. I think that obviously the government does have some impact on the economy, and we trust elected people to help manage our country, right?
Yeah.
And they're thieving and robbing and just making piss poor decisions. And I've learned the older I've gotten, the more I've learned that a lot of them people that we trusted in there are just really not that smart.
No.
They're just not smart people. And shame on us for electing them. I guess that's where our personal accountability comes into play. But man, when you just see a lot of wealth disappear, like things are good, and then the people that's managing the country are making bad decisions, and you watch that wealth. How come it's never their wealth that disappears? You know what I mean? It's always out of the middle class and the low class. Like
100%.
It just is such a crooked system sometimes. It frustrates me.
Yeah. I completely agree. I don't know.
So 720 billionaires in the U.S.
720 billionaires in the U.S. And you think that 87,000 IRS agents are needed to
look over 720?
Right.
Oh, we know where that's going,
Right.
right? Yeah. I seen a video. It was it was actually the what's going on over in China with the new lockdown, and they had the police come through and they're all in their suits and shit, and someone said, "Here's the 87,000 IRS agents coming in to look after the billionaires. We know who they're gonna attack."
See, and here's the problem too, because they haven't been open and transparent about what they're hiring them for.
Right. No, you're getting a runaround, right?
I haven't seen them say, "Hey, this is why we needed 87,000 new agents
Right.
because of said whatever,"
Yeah.
right? So then, the conspiracies run wild because nobody knows.
No one knows.
And that's the problem with not being open and transparent.
Right. People make up their own
Right.
justifications for it, right?
But then they get upset and say, "Oh, so-and-so is spinning wild
Right.
conspiracies." Well, no shit.
What do you expect them to do?
Right.
You're not telling them what
They're just throwing shit at the wall just as,
Again, now my spidey sense and my, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole in that one. As soon as I heard that they were armed and being trained with firearms, I thought, whoa, really? For some accountant that's going to sit behind a desk and figure out who cheated their taxes and then send them a bill in the mail? Like, why are they armed? Really? Armed IRS agents, and anyone thinks that's a good idea? Jesus. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, my conspiracy theorist brain kicked off when I heard that. It was bad enough that they're hiring 87,000 IRS agents. New, yeah. On top of
what I don't even know what
who knows?
Is there to begin with, but
and then you're gonna arm them. Like, yeah, why? Why do they need a firearm?
Yeah.
At the same time, they're telling you don't need one, I don't need one, no one else needs one, but these guys need one. Like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think we're not far from, them showing up to weld the door shut on our homes. I think we're closer to that part of the spectrum than we're not. I think so.
It's a good question, I guess.
Yeah.
I lean the other way. I think they know they don't have the power. That's why they couldn't get any of their mandations. You see, all the mandations in New York and shit, all that shit's gone now.
Yeah.
Hotels and restaurants, all that shit's gone. We got close to the edge.
Sure.
But I think they realized, like, we better not push them much further because we clearly cannot do this.
But I still see people, man, I got to watch how I say things because, we're probably already shadow banned.
We know that.
Yeah.
We can't even pick up a follower on Instagram.
I know. That's terrible. A lot of people willingly just gave it up, man. To me, I'm on the other end where I think it emboldened them. Like, I just read a report in New York. They're trying to make hate speech illegal. Okay, so what's hate speech? Who's going to determine that? And then what happens if you say something on YouTube that someone in New York's watching? Like, do they have jurisdiction now to come into another state and arrest you? So to me, I seen some of these people that did the heavy-handed lockdowns and things like that. They got reelected.
Yeah.
So to me, that says, we're kind of on the knife's edge going either way.
And I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm not naive to the fact, but when push came to shove, I think they found out they couldn't get away with as much as they. Well, obviously they couldn't, right? So I still think they know in their minds that
they're only going to push it so far.
They only have so much power and so much control.
Right. Well, I mean, they only have the power different story. We allow them to have, but
and they're going through. They have their own issues right now, right? With protests and.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not looking good there either, right?
No.
And
people are pushing back.
Right.
They want freedom. And
right.
I think. I don't know. Maybe they push them so far that the pendulum swings back and forth, but I got to think that 6 years ago, had anyone predicted this, like, we all would have laughed and said, nah, not in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And they went a lot further than what a lot of people thought they could have. So to me, I think we're still further down the road that direction than I'm comfortable with, for sure. Like,
while we're on the subject.
Yeah.
When there was a lockdown,
mm-hmm.
were you still working?
No, I was on medical leave.
My employer gave me a piece of paper for my vehicle in case I got pulled over.
Right.
Now, I've never had it explained to me what that piece of paper meant.
Right.
Okay.
Way understood.
So this is my own theory.
Yeah.
That was in case martial law got enacted.
Right.
Those were your papers to be out.
Sure.
That's what I believe.
I agree.
And I don't know how many people even realize that.
Right.
I don't think it was...
Your hall pass. Right. They sold it like a hall pass, like, you know.
Because, you know what I'm saying? They rolled it out like as a just-in-case measure.
Right.
Because I remember my employer saying, hey, I got to give you this piece of paper.
Right. So my ex-wife had one.
But I think it wasn't for the police.
I knew one person that was pulled over and asked for.
Really?
Yeah. One person I knew. No.
But let me back you up here 1 second. Because there was no order. The governor even said, take a drive. Take a drive in your car. This is why
conflicting because they're saying don't go up north to your cabin, but take a ride.
Okay, right. And they said you can go to the store, get your groceries, you can get gas.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't want a bunch of extra. Okay, so if it's okay for me to take a drive whenever I want, and they can't pull me over just for taking a drive with my wife on a Sunday, right? They can't pull me over for going to the local big box store to get groceries, right?
Right.
They can't pull me over for going to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
So what was that paper really for? I think that was if it was true.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Because I don't understand how that person get pulled over if it was okay to take a drive, it was okay to go to the store, it was okay to go to the pharmacy. It was
I think they left it kind of mucky on purpose because they said don't drive, but then you can drive, right? Then you could take your boat out.
Well, they said don't take
fishing.
any unnecessary trips if you don't have to. But if it's a Sunday and you need to get out of the house, take a drive, but don't necessarily stop at every party store between your house and where you're going.
But don't go up north to your cabin. So it was very conflicting and confusing, and I think they did that on purpose so that they could say the rule is this. Look, we said it 2 weeks ago, and how could you even argue it? Because technically they did say don't drive, but in the other hand they said do drive, that it's okay to. So to me, it was not having clear defined rules was one of the things that drove me nuts during that time. Was none of this makes any sense. You contradict yourself in the same press conference. Tell people it's okay to go fishing, but it's not okay to go to the beach. Like, how does that make any sense? I hope to God we never go through something like that again. We'll see.
It wasn't.
It was terrible. It was, and I'll tell you, 5 years before that, I think a lot of people would have never believed that Americans would have even went along with that, because we're kind of a rebellious society by nature, anyways, right? So.
Well, I think the only reason we went along with it is because all the extra money.
That helped for sure. Yeah,
I think it was all the
paying
extra
people
money.
off to just sit home and
you could order your shit from Amazon. Yep. You could have your groceries ready for pickup. Remember, every store they still got it now. You can order online. You pull up to the number. You call them, say I'm parking spot number 5, and they bring it right out and they put it in the back of your car for you.
Yeah.
So I think had it
been like China where people were throwing refrigerators off the balcony because they're empty, and I think
had we been in a recession and then gone into that and they didn't have the ability to print money or whatever, I think it would have been a lot different. Worse. I think you'd have seen more rioting. You would have seen because
could have got them to crack down even harder. I don't know, man. We'll see. I mean, we're on the edge of it now. That you hear them talking about it. Well, there's the possibility that the resurgence, and we're gonna have to go back to some of those.
For it now. I think it's been exposed for what it is.
Yeah, I think
there was enough fear before. that they get away. I didn't know. I took all the precautions.
I did.
Rubber gloves, wiping groceries.
I had no problem with a
we-
week or two,
we
man.
didn't know.
You know, flatten the curb out.
Well, even the first couple months, until the information started getting out,
Yeah.
I was cautious too.
Yeah, I hope we don't go through that again. That was miserable.
So I got here the same time you did.
Yeah.
I went to a funeral this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's hard.
Someone close to you?
Former coworker from my previous employer, so
it sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry for your loss.
Oh, it's all right. I feel bad for his family.
Yeah.
We weren't, I mean,
Right.
it is. I'm, whatever. It ain't about me.
Right.
It's about him and his life. But it's so fucked up. Like when Adam was here, he told that story about his grandfather. You remember the story he told about his father when they're standing out in front of the church there and people driving by?
Yeah.
And I was sitting there and they had friends come for the first hour, and then it was family after for the remainder of the service. So it was nice because it wasn't too busy, and they had two nice full-size movie screens playing just some music and pictures of his whole life, from being a baby. And
that's cool.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and it took about a half hour to get all the way through it, which was really nice because it gave me more of a understanding of his life. Right. Then I looked at my watch and I'm like, I get home, get the studio fired up, and I got a podcast to do today, And I was on my way home and I stopped and I grabbed a couple things at the store, and it's like only for a brief moment.
Yeah.
Does life stop right when you pass? Only for a brief moment does life stop, and then it just like a slingshot just takes right back off.
It was one of the things for me that was always kind of hard when you lost someone that was close to you, especially life kind of it pauses, it kind of kicks you, knocks the wind out of you a little bit, and you're kind of stagnant for a minute. But you watch life around you just go on like that person was never even really here, and God, that always bothered me, kind of messed with my head a little, wow, I guess it's, life goes on.
Right across the road when I was pulling out of the church, across the road, these people had their living room window open, Christmas tree up. I seen people moving in the house, like
their life's going on, didn't miss a beat,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a weird feeling to me.
First thing I thought was that story Adam told on the podcast, episode 10. If you guys haven't caught it, go back and check that out.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
But yeah, his dad telling him that, like, hey, look at all these people, like they're oblivious to what's happening right here, right now.
Yeah.
And all the people that really knew this person, their life only pauses for. And in time, it's not even a blimp in time. It's just a momentary pause in your life because you knew that person, and you just you get right back to doing what you're doing, just like we are right now, right?
Right. I guess if anything, if you've really touched some people, hopefully they carry you along with them.
They do.
In their thoughts, at least,
I know.
But they got to get back to kind of life, though, right? It doesn't stop.
I still wear a cross urn every day.
Yeah.
With my dad's ashes in it.
Right.
So I get it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm still
living life,
right?
And at first, it kind of bothered me because it felt like it was cheating that person. But then I got older, I realized like that's the way of honoring the people you love that you lose. What would they want for you?
Right.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't want you depressed, sitting in your room in the dark, bawling your eyes out for 5 years. They'd want you having your best life, right? And to think about them and smile. Think about funny stories and happy stories. Like I lost both of my parents, and both of them were outdoors people. So obviously, when I hunt, I also had a couple of uncles that were, real predominant roles in my life of fishing and hunting, and I can't be out in the woods and in the tree stand without thinking of those people. But and I remember when they first passed, I thought I never do that again. Like I'm just done. I can't hunt. I can't fish. It's um, and it took a second for me to realize, no. Those are the things I need to do. Those are the things I'd want my sons to keep doing, right? And to think about me, go out in the woods, shoot that deer, and smile. Think about some of the deer me and you shot together. The funny stories some of the funny stories me and you have had throughout the years of out raccoon hunting and me falling on my ass. Like it was that stretch every time we went out and hunted. Like I would end up falling, and my balance was so terrible. We got some great stories, and if I passed before you, I would want you to think about those things and smile and not be sad and crushed. So.
Well, and how unfair would it be to your kids, and how many memories wouldn't they have is if when someone passed in your life, you stopped doing all these things.
Right. Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it right there. You'd be robbing them of all their potential happy moments,
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you stopped hunting, they would have never went hunting. They would never get those memories. Or whatever it is, if you couldn't get out of your room, you couldn't get up in the morning because all you did was drink alcohol and indulge in sweet foods and just watch TV because you couldn't deal with life. Well, now what kind of life are your kids having?
Exactly. Yep. So it's a way of honoring them people that you lose along the way, and none of us live forever. We're all gonna go at some point, and I hope that when I go, like there's my kids have a whole head full of memories and things to smile about. If I can be on my deathbed and look back and go, hey, I spent good time with people that I loved, that were good people, and made a bunch of good memories. I think I'll be okay. Because I'm not afraid of dying at all. I know where I'm going when I pass, but I think if there was any fear, it would with regret. You know what I mean? I don't want to lay on a deathbed and have a bunch of regrets. I should have done this. I should have been better at that. I'm trying to do that shit now.
And that's kind of where I am too. Like I'm starting to really look and say, like, I guess it's just a coming of age thing. It's a middle age thing where you start realizing, like you had said in a podcast, there's the potential. There's more days behind you than ahead of you, right?
Right.
So now you start going. You start realizing like you really only, as cliche as the statement is, but you only have one life.
That's it, man.
And it's like,
make it your best one.
Right. So how going forward, what do I need to do? Because it's starting to become very real that
the odds start changing.
Right.
Even driving. You've been driving 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after 30 years of driving safely from here to there every day all over hell, so, I mean, what's the chances of a bad wreck happening and you not surviving it? I spent years as an emergency medical technician, and one of the things that actually surprised me is how many people actually died in my community every day that, it's a big city or town, you don't really realize how many people actually die, and there was quite a few that were just car wrecks that were unexpected. It wasn't medical, it was just someone turning or running a stop sign or so you start thinking not only health wise are there more days behind me than ahead of me, but the longer I drive without a wreck, the greater the chances is that I'm gonna have one. Yeah, I think all of it's a big mind fuck, really. But I just don't want to have a bunch of regrets. I want to be able to look back and say, I tried really hard to be a good person. I made a bunch of good memories. I'm okay,
That's surprising. In our state, only 1,131 people died in car accidents last year.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I'm shocked. I thought that number would be 5 times that.
Yeah, I would have thought so too.
I'm shocked
because in the city that I was in, I mean, it was pretty common to be on one a day just for the ambulance that you were working on to end up with one fatality a day from a car wreck. I mean, there was a lot of car accidents. I didn't realize how many car wrecks there really were, in that city. So it was one of the things that just surprised me,
Which that's up what, 3?
Yeah.
100 and
right?
50, up 150 from the previous year, something like that. Which is still too many. Don't get me wrong.
You also got to understand though too. That's 19 to 21. There wasn't as much driving going on in that time frame, right? A lot of people are staying home, and
Yeah, that is true.
I'd be curious to see what
22 is
what
not
22
over yet, so
what that'll be.
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know. Tomorrow's not promised, and I want to make today my best day, and make sure that I'm slowing down enough, because I get in a hurry in my mind, and it's always traveling at light speed, and things I need to do, things I want to do, things I think I should do, and it's just this mess of, it's like spaghetti noodles, you know what I mean? You can't see one end to the other. It's just a pile of twisted up. It's how my thoughts get sometimes, and I've been trying to be better about just slow down, did take a minute and make sure that I'm checking these boxes as my day goes on. Did I reach out to my kids? When was the last time I checked on my adult son? What the hell's that kid doing today? You know what I mean? Like, because it was really easy to get distracted and go, well, he'll get a hold of me. He'll get a hold of me, right?
Yeah.
And now I understand more. My mom used to drive me nuts, man. She called me every single day, and like, how you doing, baby? And I'm thinking, Ma, like, I love you, but I'm not a baby, And then I realized, like, nah, I am your baby. I'm always gonna be your baby, no matter how old I get.
Yeah.
I'm still that. I'm your baby, And she'd have a dream, and she'd be like, and I'd always know, because she'd call and say, hey, just take it easy while you're out driving on the roads today, I'd say, you had a bad dream, did you? A car wreck or something? And but I kind of understand that more now. The older I get, the more I understand where she was coming from with that. Just wanting to stay involved in my life, know where I'm at, because your kids get to be adults, and all of a sudden it's like, who are they with right now? You don't know. You don't know where they're at. Like, when they're living at home, you oversee everything, right? So you kind of know who they're with, where they're at. Hey, I'm gonna go to the store with John. Okay, be back in 2 hours. By dinner time, you have, I don't want to call them controls, but it's definitely overseeing, managing, helping manage their life. And then when they get older, you got to trust that you planted good seeds, and hopefully they're making good decisions when they're out on their own, and they're not doing stupid shit like drinking and driving. And I almost got more scared the older my kids got, the more worried I was, which was backwards to what I expected it to go. I always thought, like, the worry is when they're little. Oh my God, put everything up. Or could they choke on this? Can they climb that and flip that down on them? Like, they're not afraid of heights. They're going to fall and break their neck, and you worry about that as a parent so bad. Once they get older, it'll be easier. And to me, it almost got harder, And it was weird, just really bizarre.
You said something. You said, like, they'll always be your baby or your kid. Mm-hmm. And the first time I realized this, and I know this is just a movie, so calm down, everybody out there. But in Grumpy Old Men,
I like that show.
The really old guy, the one that played Mick and Rocky, and I don't remember what his son's name was, but they're out on the ice, and he'd said to him, he goes, "How would you know? You're just a damn kid."
Right.
But the son's like 70 years old, but he's like 90,
he's like, right.
He's like, you're just a damn kid. But then I realized, like, for whatever reason in that moment, and this is, 20 years ago, whatever, when I saw that, I thought, holy shit. He sees him still as a kid because he's got 20 more years life experience. It don't matter. It don't matter if he was 30 and his son was 10.
Yep.
Or if he's 70 and his son's 50, or he's 90 and his son, he's got 20 more years of life experience. So
and
you're always going to look at them like, like they're younger, they're a kid.
Because, you'll learn, you'll get there, you'll see someday.
Even at that age, right? It was just really eye-opening for me. Like, holy shit, you're always going to view it that way.
That's kind of what I meant my mom was, there's always going to be that difference no matter how old I get. She's always going to be older, wiser, lived through more, so.
Another thing, at that funeral today, one thing that scared the shit out of me is that guy is only 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
I thought, like, I'm sitting there, and I knew how old he was because I saw the obituary. But when I was sitting there, like when the pictures would start back over, they had a picture of him and it had the date, year he was born, year he passed. And I saw the year he was born. I'm like, it was exactly 10 years before me. I'm like, holy shit, there's a chance I could only have 10 years left?
Yeah,
like,
or 5.
I just seen someone just in that fact, though, like, because, I can put it together. It's like, I could potentially have 10 years left. Like,
I just caught an obituary on social media. It was someone that I didn't know, but someone I knew this person and had posted the obituary, and she was 6 years older than me. Oh, holy shit! And natural causes. It wasn't like a car wreck or anything. And wow, man, you never know. I mean,
and I don't know what happened.
There's people that's younger than us that passed.
I haven't talked to anybody, find out what happened. It's unfortunate either way, but when I saw the date he was born, I was just like, holy shit.
Right.
Like, well, and then you had said, I know where I'm going when I die.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking the other day, like, when we crucified Jesus, was God just like, I'm checking out, you dickheads are on your own. I gave you a chance, like, good luck with it.
Yeah, you would think.
Does it have blood on all of our hands now? Like, that's a scary thought,
I mean,
right. I was just sitting there thinking about it the other day. I was listening to something and they're talking about the crucifixion of Christ.
Yeah.
Then my mind just starts wandering. I'm like, things have gotten better, yes, but man, it seems like, I don't know, like,
I think people got so bad that to just, to give some burnt offering or sin offering of a bull or lamb, just the blood couldn't cover our sin anymore. So, I mean, Christ was our lamb, and the Christian belief, that's
right.
Christ was, our sacrificial lamb, because it took that position, that the Son of God, the blood of the Son of God, to even cover our sins, because people are flawed. Just even the best of us. I guess the way I always looked at it was none of us deserve to go to heaven when we die. It was because of the passion, the crucifixion of Christ that allowed us to. But yeah, I mean, with religion and just such a deep rabbit hole to dive into. I started reading the book,
right,
from cover to cover. Right. I've read it on and off throughout my life, but never cover to cover like that. And I'm almost done. Like, almost. Just a little bit left. It's been different. It's been a different experience reading it that way. Some really good stories in there. It's helped me, kind of rediscover some things in me that I needed. Help me be stronger in areas that I needed to be stronger at. I didn't realize it was such a deficit as looking back I do now. Would have saved me some hardship, I think, had I done this before. But it's funny, you look at that book and it's it's a big book. Right. And really there's a reoccurring story over and over and over and over through that entire book, is all just basically God telling people to behave and people not, and then being punished, and then repenting and doing good for a minute, and then not behaving again, like a bunch of bad children.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of struck me, like, reading it from cover to cover like that, just, this really is just a story of the father saying, be a good kid, man. Do what you're told, and We're just not good at
Well, and
that.
that was more to my point, that, God's like, I sent Moses down there with some simple rules. Just
Right. Ten
here's
laws,
10
man.
rules. Follow these.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send my son down. Maybe he can, spread some word. Maybe
Right.
he heals some people and shows you
Yeah,
guys.
we called him
like,
teacher, right?
right.
A lot of people did.
Maybe I send him down there. He can show you guys that,
Right. But Christ predicted
in
his outcome, so I think that was his whole purpose, was for that. And I think he knew that, and I think that's why when he went into the hills and the mountains, and the devil appeared to him to try to talk him out of it, like he said, this has been written. The war's already been won. Like he knew that that was what his purpose was, and that he was going to have to go through that, even though the devil was trying to tempt him not to. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good book. I can tell you that it's a really good book.
But that doesn't make sense to me either. Like, why did he have to go through that? That's where these are questions I have. Like if he's God, why did he have to die for our sins? Why couldn't he just say, look, I know you guys are flawed, you guys are a little dicked up in the head.
Right.
I
think
I know you guys want to crucify me, you guys want to kill me. That ain't how this is gonna play out, homie.
Right.
Yeah.
I think because
I still forgive you guys, even though you're little shitheads. But
because if you do it that way, it cheapens the lesson. I guess the way I look at it.
We kill him, so he forgives all of our sins. It's like, it seems like we got away with one.
Well, it wasn't.
Doesn't it?
It was a sacrifice, right? So it was his love. He could have stopped it, right? He was the Son of God, so he created miracles himself, so he could have stopped that at any moment. It was to demonstrate the love for us, that he went through that, and it wasn't just the crucifixion; it was the flogging and the torture he dealt with leading into the crucifixion. So I think there's a deep lesson in there for us. Some of it, I think, our simple brains can't even comprehend. I think sometimes, we struggle because there's parts of this we're not gonna understand.
Right, but like I said, it's like trying to think of an analogy that would compare. It just seems like, you guys killed me, I forgive you. Like, you guys got away with one.
Right.
We didn't get punished for killing him. All of our sins got forgiven for killing him. Like,
I think some people were punished for it, though, because it wasn't every human being that crucified him, right? So
right, but how many?
I gotta be really careful.
Right, how many allowed it to happen? How many cheered it on? How many lined the path that he walked with the cross?
When the Romans offered him up, they gave the crowd the choice between I think he was a murderer, had been accused of murder, or Jesus, and the crowd picked the murderer to be set free. So yeah, I have a ton of questions,
right,
myself. Sometimes it's really hard because
it just worries me that maybe God gave up on us,
and I see, sure, but I think had God really given up on us, the world would be worse than it is. I think that there's a lot of good in the world still, and I think it's because God didn't give up on us, and that continuing communication with, because I believe, at least in my life, that I was being told to do certain things and I wasn't doing them, and I think it was because of that why some of the things happened in my life the way the events unfolded. Had I listened, I think I could have prevented some of that. But I'm listening now, right? I hear you loud and clear. So there's still that constant communication, and I pray a lot, obviously, and I believe I've had a lot of prayers answered. So to me, that tells me he hasn't given up on us at all. It just, we're just brat children. That
Isn't this a change of events? You're optimistic today, I'm pessimistic.
Yeah, what the hell, man? Is it a full moon or what? Yeah, because lately we've been the other way.
Because the way I've seen it lately is we're made in God's image, right?
Yeah.
Most people just think that means that we look like this thing. But if we're truly made in his image, that means even in our minds and how we think and how we do things, like we're made in his image.
Right.
Like if we make a robot, it's going to look like a human. It's going to emulate a human. It's going to talk like us. We're going to try to help it think as much, right?
Yeah.
It's made in our image.
Right.
So then I'm like, okay, well, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Like, why do babies die?
Why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Because earlier when we were talking about death, one of the things that was in my thought was, because we were talking, we could only have 10 years. And I thought, how many kids have leukemia that never even got to live a life the way you did or I did? So, yeah,
I'm a very compassionate, understanding, and if I had control of things, if there's one thing I could stop, it'd be babies and little kids from dying.
Harm to children, not to let bad things happen to kids.
Right.
That's the one question that I don't even want to try to answer that one because I think it's beyond my capability of understanding.
Then I start wondering, like, did God just give up on us?
Right.
And we're just here on our own.
But I think even when, let's say we go back to an event where we know God hadn't given up on us, which was with Moses leading his people out of Egypt. A lot of bad stuff happened to kids then, like that's where Passover came from.
Yeah.
So everybody's firstborn, even the animals, their firstborn.
And that's where I'm confusing, because the way I was raised and taught and preached to was God was so compassionate and understanding,
but he's also
and
very
merciful,
wrathful.
and it's like.
But when you read the book, he's also very. He tells you in the book, I'm a jealous God, and he can be a very angry God.
That's what I understand, because the way I was raised in our faith, like God didn't have emotions like man did. He wasn't angry. He wasn't. It was just.
Yeah.
He was in a Zen state all the time, where it was just peace, and that's what it was supposed to be when you go to heaven. It's just it's just peace. Well, how can it be so much peace there if it's so much chaos? I
think that when you read it, I don't even know how many stories I've read where God himself has said, like, I'm a jealous God, I'm a wrathful God, like, you anger me, and he didn't just smite a city, like he put everybody to the sword. Men, women, and children.
Right.
And I was shocked because growing up, I had a simplistic way of kind of viewing that. What do they call it? The hippy dippy Jesus, right?
Yeah.
All's good. Everything's, like you said, peaceful, and everyone's floating around playing a harp on a cloud somewhere. And when I start reading these stories, especially now from cover to cover, when they're kind of going in line, like, I thought, holy shit, like, these people didn't listen, and God allowed another group of people to come in and, like, murder them straight up, all of them. Yeah, I could almost see the soldiers, right? Because we watch movies and it's like, the soldiers are fighting, and, hey, you're a soldier, you might die, right?
Yeah.
But the women and children, like, leave none alive.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, holy shit, like, the Bible's brutal.
That's why
it's
confused.
Brutal.
That's where
I think it's, but I also know in that book it's demonstrated over and over and over again that even when you're being a bad kid and a butthead, if you stop, repent, try to be better, like he's a merciful God that forgives you and sets those sins aside, that they're not used against you later on, right? Like he doesn't hold a grudge at all. He just wants us to follow those rules, and
Why though? What's the purpose? Why create
yeah,
man? Why create man and then tell him he's got to follow these rules? But a grizzly bear can eat a bear cub and
yeah,
reproduce with another bear. Like in the animal kingdom,
right.
none of this applies. Alligators can just rip another alligator's leg
Because
off, and it's just like
that foot,
right.
wow,
Like
I think because we were made in God's image, so
But why doesn't he
we're
allow
different than
compassion in
animals.
the animal kingdom? Why is it,
Yeah,
tooth, claw, and fang? Why is it
right.
that the most merciful death an animal dies is at the hands of a hunter? Why is every other death that dies miserable? If
Miserable
God,
and terrible.
if Noah's Ark and he's, everybody's compassionate and they love and respect, and I'm just confused.
Yeah, but I was reading stories even yesterday. In one of the books that I'm in right now, they built a temple, and the offerings that's offered and for God, and it's like I want 3 bulls, 2 rams, and a couple of kids from your goats without blemish. So don't bring a lame goat and say, well, I'll just give God this one because this one sucks anyways. It's like he wants the good shit. Um, and I was thinking about the story about your brother butchering that chicken and how we're more sensitized to it, right? Like it's harder for us, and I gotta imagine as the further we get away from that, the harder it gets. These people were just like it reminded me of that scene in the movie Alexander where they bring a bull out, they're getting ready to go to war and they're sacrificing this bull, and he puts his hand above it and he opens his hand and all this rice falls down the bull's face and it distracts the bull, and as soon as it does, he cuts its jugular and there's blood all over, and I thought, God, that's so brutal. Like, I couldn't imagine bringing an animal over to like a rock and just whacking it for that. You know what I mean? It just seems so alien to me because we're more, I would think, compassionate to animals. So I think when Noah was putting animals on the ark, it wasn't the lovey kid story that we're taught in Bible school. It was because these animals were here for a purpose to feed us, I think it was a lot different way of viewing animals than the way we view them today.
Was it?
But look, man, I'm not a Bible scholar, so I'm just a dumbass that reads, and I take away from it, hopefully, what the Lord wants me to. But there's a lot of stuff in there that's confusing. Sometimes I wish I had a teacher sitting next to me that I could ask.
Yeah, you see this. Where the Aztecs slaughtered 84,000 people in 4 days.
Yep. Which I do watch a lot of documentaries.
Like, why does God want us to sacrifice?
Right.
Now,
Christians would say, well, that's because it was a wrong God.
We still sacrifice lambs.
Incas, I mean, they
at the temple. It's like it's still one of God's creatures.
Right.
I don't understand. Yeah. You can be the best Christian in the world. You can be.
I think at the time when they did that with animals, it was because an animal was wealth, right? An animal was life. In those days, especially, your prize stock, like without those animals, you'd starve. You wouldn't live. You wouldn't be able to do your grain. You wouldn't be able to have meat. So it was the idea of taking that something that you needed so desperately and sacrificing it and giving it to the Lord it's the sacrifice. It isn't the death of the animal. It's giving it away, right, to the Lord. It's sacrificing that animal from your life
I guess it's a give
now
and
it's
receive
different.
analogy.
Yeah.
Like, sacrifice the best
Yep.
lamb and you'll go home and there'll be 10 more there waiting for you.
You know, God loves
And
a cheerful giver, right?
And I know, I know wealthy people say it seems like the more they give, the more they get. Like, they just fall into another deal. They fall into, just money seems to come at them the more they give.
Yeah. And I think, even there's some stories about that in the book, and just a lady gave away just a little bit of money and was praised by the father, and the rich people were like, we've given way more than that. Why should she get praised and elevated to our level? She had nothing. She gave everything she had. Yeah. You have a lot. You're giving a small fraction. Yeah. Give till it hurts, right? Sacrifice. And that's, I think, is what those animals represented then. And we don't now because, Jesus.
And I just want I want people to understand, I believe in God. I believe, I can't believe this all just came from nothing. There was just some Big Bang and nobody knows what caused the Big Bang.
Yeah.
There was no reason, there's nothing. And then there's an explosion.
And then pond scum.
Right.
And then us.
Led into microbes and single cell organisms and all of a sudden, no, I don't believe in that shit one bit.
No. Me either.
Something created this. I get that.
There's a design to it.
My confusion is in the stories.
Right. I think what's helped me is reading myself. Yeah. And look, guys, I'm not getting on a soapbox preaching to anyone. Believe what you're going to believe. Yeah. I would never push my beliefs on anyone. I can just tell you, like, I'll always answer the questions truthfully, what I believe, what I've learned. I pray a lot before I read to help me understand what I'm reading, to take away the message that Lord wants me to receive that day. But there's I got a Bible on my phone too, and it gives me a verse every day. It sends me a verse. And there's too many times in my life where I was praying about something or upset about something, confused about something, and then have either the verse come through on my phone that directly ties into whatever conflict was going on with me, just answers. And I think I've been trying to learn to quiet my brain down so that I can hear them. Mm-hmm. Because I think the answers were always there and always given to me. I just was distracted, not listening, not paying attention. It's like having a kid and you tell them, quit running through the house. Kid runs through the house. Quit running through the house. The third time through, you stick your foot out, trip them. Wah! I told you to quit running through the house. This is why. Sometimes I didn't listen well, and I'm just trying to quiet my mind. I've been trying meditation. That's been good. It's hard to really take all thoughts out of your head. Is really difficult to do, man. And I've been practicing really hard at it. I can do it for
about 3 seconds.
Yeah,
it's like I know it's something you got to continually work on to build.
Your mind is like mine. We're always multi-firing 1,000 different things at one time. I'm getting better at it, but I've noticed the quieter I can make my head, sometimes the clearer the answers are that I get. I don't want to guess about anything, I want to know. I want to hear your voice, Lord. I want to hear it thunder off in my mind. Boom. This is what I'm telling you to do, right? But I also know that if I'm distracted and not paying attention and I'm not making that effort, then, I won't hear it.
Well, it's just, I hear a lot of Christians, on the abortion thing,
Mm-hmm.
Life is the most precious thing, and
right.
And they'll actually, there's been abortion doctors have been murdered, because, well, if I murder him, I'm saving so many babies' lives. But at the same time, babies die every day.
Right.
And it's like, okay, what's going on here then?
Right. I think, yeah. Oh, that's tough, man.
Right.
Yeah, those.
You know what I'm saying? It's
are
confusing.
Hard, very confusing.
It's just confusing for me as I'm trying to work through things in my head. And I have no idea why it even matters.
Right.
I don't know why. These are just little things that bug me.
I think some of the answers we're not going to get until the end.
Yeah.
You know, I think some of it is probably because maybe our brains are simplistic and we wouldn't be able to even comprehend it anyways. But there definitely is a design to life, and there's a reason for it. Why some things happen, I don't know. I wish they didn't.
Like it's this weird balance with all things, right?
Right.
For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction, right? So if there's life, there's death, right?
Right. Good, evil, light, dark.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I just know if like one of my kids was in trouble, if there was a chance something bad could happen to them, I'd do everything tooth, claw, and fang to save their life, to prevent them from being hurt. And we're all God's children. This is where all this shit is so confusing to me.
You know what I mean? Because there's still like free will, right? So you can do, and this is a conversation I had with my brother, who's a minister, and thank God, because man, I ask him a lot of questions like this.
Well, maybe we need to bring him on here.
You know, he said he'd come on.
I think these conversations.
It'd be a fun one to have.
Again, I'm an idiot. I am not versed in the Bible. I barely have a fucking brief understanding of religion.
He's helped me a lot.
But
he's ministered to me a lot. I ask him a lot of questions, things like that. He's been on this journey with me, you know, that I've been on lately. So it's been great to have him there. But we were talking about fatherhood. You know, he's got kids, and just, you know.
And not that I would expect him to come on here and say, this is the answer to your question, like it's a math problem.
No.
I understand he doesn't have the answers.
Not all of them. No. Some of them he does. Some of them he don't.
Some of them
he'll have his interpretation.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He may have his answer, but nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows.
You only know what was written, right?
And well, I mean, you're only it's your interpretation. Right. It's your perception of the I guarantee you, we take your Bible and we take 1,000 people that are very well versed in it. We're going to get 1,000 different answers to any verse you pull out of there and say, what's the meaning of this?
Almost. Not all, because there are some things that are black and white in there too, like the crucifixion, and you know what I mean. These are
we just went over why
historical events.
Why was it allowed to happen? Right. Why did the people line the street?
But there's a lot of historical events that's in there that, you know, they're proven with archaeology now. Like I just watched it. So
no, when I'm saying interpretations of what did God mean when He said this in this verse. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying did this event take place.
Right.
Did He?
Well, I was saying like he would have some answers, like things that are historical events that, you know, they're black and white in there that this happened. Then there's things that will be that his interpretation, right? The way he understands them. I don't know. He's a teacher, right? That's what he is. So that's the job that God called on him to do. So I think I trust in that a lot. That if God called him to be a teacher, then God's given him the.
But again, we could take 1,000 people, and we're going to get different interpretations of different verses.
But you're not going to ask 1,000 people that day that you have a question. You're going to ask one person, and you're going to get one answer.
But I've asked.
Should be the one you're supposed to hear.
Even at my wife's grandmother's funeral, I pulled the pastor aside. I said, "What do you think about this verse?" And he gave me. It's not like I've never asked these questions. I used to work with another gentleman as a minister, and I would ask him shit all the time too. What does this mean? What does that mean? And trust me, there's different interpretations of how they feel. But all these people were called on.
Maybe you were hearing what you were supposed to hear at that time, and it's been an evolution in the way you think or see things. This is what I'm trying to say. I don't believe in random. So I believe when you ask someone something, you're going to get the answer that you're meant to hear then. And, you know, it may evolve and change throughout your life because your understanding or appreciation or your ability to understand changes. You know, like we were talking, my brother and I earlier, about fatherhood and kids, and, you know, he's got a family, and it's like you said a little while ago, if one of your kids had the potential to be hurt, like you would do everything you could, but you can't stop your kids from being hurt. right? So
to up till like 20 years old, you have a lot of control. Okay.
right,
And I
and you
get
can
once they're an
tell.
adult, we're not talking about. I'm talking when my kids
Yeah,
can't fend
my
for themselves.
year old at that time son flipped over on a rocking horse and damn near put his eyeball
But
out.
you're
I
not.
didn't prevent
But you're
it,
not God though.
but you were using that as an example
Right.
of
I'm saying.
the father and his children, and you being a
So,
father and your children. And
so now you're saying God only has the amount of control over us that we have
no,
over our
I'm
own
saying
kids.
the way I understand is we have a lot of free will, and he teaches us lessons. He tries, but we don't always listen any more than your kids always listen to everything you told them because you didn't want them to get hurt. You might have told your son, "Don't climb that tree in the front yard, because you're gonna fall and get hurt." And then the one time, you're busy doing something, the kid climbs a tree and falls out and breaks his arm. I don't know. I mean, I was in the hospital a lot with broken bones, um,
But
because I didn't follow my
if I
parents'
had
rules.
magical powers like
Right.
Superman, and I had eyes all seeing, I'd
Yeah.
swoop out there right through the wall and catch him. And hey, man, I told you, you almost broke your leg. Like.
But what would he do the next day? He'd be climbing the tree again.
And
It's
I
the
would catch
lesson.
him falling again
It's
too.
it's the
And
lesson of falling to learn not to, right? And to learn to
well,
listen. You listen to your parents. Eventually, you
not
get to a point where
necessarily. Evil
you
Knievel
know
didn't seem like he ever
he
learned
was
his
he
lesson
was
of
a
falling.
prodigy, but I think as we get older, we learn to listen to our parents better, right? Because we're starting to understand, like, all right, they're telling us this not because they're an asshole, but because they care and they know that if they're saying this, they're probably right. There probably is a potential I'm going to get hurt, and I don't want to get hurt, you know. And I think our relationship with God's similar.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not a rabbi.
I know you're
It's
not. I'm just bouncing
just
ideas.
kind of what I've
I'm trying
read
to
and
work this out in my own
right.
mind in real time too.
Sure.
I'm trying to
it's complicated.
figure out how I understand it and how I feel about these complicated subjects.
Because there's some things in there that really shocked me, especially this go through, and I thought, man, this tree hugging hippy dippy way of viewing things that I learned in Bible school as a kid, like it's not exactly that way. There's a little bit of everything in that book. It, it's brutal. There's just some really brutal parts in there, and I guess it mirrors real life really well. I'm enjoying this read through. I told my brother earlier I'm about done, and then I'm going to start over because obviously you miss so much. There's just so much to it, and there's so much richness in those stories that.
But you told your kids not to climb that tree, right?
Right.
Why hasn't God come back and said, "Hey, shitheads, knock it off"?
I think He does. See,
I mean,
to me,
second coming, coming here and saying, "Knock your shit off."
That's the prophecy of what's to come, right? God's people fell away, at least in the Christian belief, so that other people would have access, and then the second coming, and yeah. I don't know, man. I think some of it's just beyond my ability to comprehend it. But
I get it. And again, I'm not looking for answers.
I think there's a lot of.
I'm just bouncing shit off you to.
I think there's just a lot. I think we're meant to learn, and some of us do. Some of us learn harder than others, and you fall and you break a lot of bones before you learn not to climb the goddamn tree. So.
And I understand that we like faith, right? That's a big part of it, right? You're supposed to have faith in this thing that if you do the right things,
essential. Yep.
You're going to be rewarded because it's not about what you have here; it's what you do here,
right?
That is supposed to reward you,
and the belief
in the end, right? This is temporary; it is fleeting, it's short,
and believing in something when there's really not. When you can't prove it, right? When there's no reason to really believe that's what faith is, and that's essential to Christianity for sure.
It's weird how this reward-based system works in all things, right?
Yeah.
Like getting up and going to work, you're rewarded with a paycheck, and you have these internal rewards of doing a good job, and you're satisfied that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird how these reward systems work
Right.
in our own bodies and minds. That when I have a good workout, how good I feel afterwards. I'm kinder, and I listen better, and I'm more compassionate, and I'm more giving.
It's kind of in your DNA, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird
right
how,
at a cellular level.
Right. It's weird how these reward programs are wired into us.
Yeah.
To do better, to create.
Yeah.
And it's like once we figured out that creating thing and that reward, we created more, and we created like the wheel, right?
Yeah.
The wheel. Well, shit, we can put a wagon on the wheel. Now we can move stuff, or a wheelbarrow, whatever one they utilize the wheel for.
How it evolved,
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, I can move this easier. Well, now I can move, wood, and I can.
Yeah.
And then we just kept evolving, creating, creating. And then there was like a period where we kind of got in a destruction phase, right? So like Genghis Khan, right? Where it's just raping and pillaging and destroying, and I don't know how much innovation was happening in that period of time.
With weaponry, a lot.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
So,
you really want chainmail, didn't you?
I was watching a lot of documentaries lately. I tried to unplug from some of the basic media because there was just so much going on with Twitter and Elon and just yay, or
I want you to finish your thought real quick, and then I want to come back to that. So
the
documentary.
One of the innovations that had happened with Europe that just they got to be kick ass was the longbow, and how at that time there was a lot of crossbows being used, and the longbow just they could shoot way further and a lot heavier arrow that would penetrate chainmail, things like that. So just that innovation and how it changed warfare. And there was another one about like the English language and where it came from. It was pretty interesting that it was actually a mixture of like tribal barbarian type language in northern Britain and French, and it was a hybrid of the two together for the people that lived in the middle. That just they called it the common tongue, but in the sentence structure was put together like German, and it was that combination, that blending over time evolved into the English language that is, I think now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the most predominant language on the globe now. It's the most spoke language in the world.
I would think.
And it started from some nomadic tribes and French, and the people in the middle that were trading back and forth, and kind of blended this language all together with the sentence structure of German, because like before they put more emphasis on like the ending of a sentence. It was weird the way you understood the sentence itself, and like in English it was the beginning and the end, where the emphasis of the man ran across the road. It was just really interesting. I did not know that. I knew English evolved from Europe, but I had no idea. It was like just watching lots of civilizations that were here and gone, and how they fell. And it's like I watched one about Sparta, and because we've all seen like 300, and the Spartans are the most badass fighting force. Where are they? And honestly, they kind of faded out because they couldn't create enough Spartans. The bar was so high, like it was an elite class of those fighters, and a lot of the other people down the tier were like slaves, and they started to rely more heavily on the slaves fighting because they didn't have, at one time there was over 10,000 Spartan soldiers, and then, towards the end there was like 1,000, and they're going to war, and now instead of sending, a couple hundred in each brigade of, would have a couple hundred Spartans too. Now there's one true Spartan with a bunch of slaves, and eventually it was depopulation, which they couldn't recover from, you know.
Huh.
And eventually they got their ass kicked, and then
Right.
the slaves revolted and said, we're not ever going to be enslaved again, and that was the end. There was no more Spartan soldiers. It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
So you brought up Tim Pool. I watched a video from him today. Man, he's going through a lot of shit right now.
Yeah, he is.
Have you seen these people coming out and doing videos and shit about him?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I feel bad for him.
Yeah,
really
he's getting raked over the coals over that. You know, I watched the original. I was watching the live stream when that all happened with Ye. You know,
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about
leaving,
like Adam coming out and doing that live stream and like airing all this laundry, and then his former engineer coming out and doing that live stream the other night.
To me, I thought they were all kind of tied together. If once there was a little blood in the water,
well,
here comes all the piranhas.
Adam did his
but
thing
Adam was the first one.
That was Thanksgiving or the day after, right around there. And then just
he's getting pretty beat
up. Was
it
last night? It might have been, no, night before.
Yeah.
His engineer was on another live. His former engineer
throwing him under the bus.
Hey, not really throwing him under the bus, but I think definitely taking advantage. I don't know.
But like he said, it's
Then I watched him do a thing there, and I'm just like, what is he, like 35?
Yeah, he's right around there, mid-30s. Yeah.
Dude, I was not in any position at 35 to run a multi-million-dollar media.
I give him credit, man. Like, he's successful,
And then these people to come out and, like, try to, I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know if they're trying to make a name for themselves because he's getting so much success.
Sure. Well, that's what he says. Everyone tries to take it or piggyback off of it. People that were family that, hey, I'm real close. And like he said, they're people that, you barely even know. And everyone's trying to say they've been your best friend because everyone wants to write a book or tell their story and make money,
And I don't know him at all. I don't know him other than I've watched him since the beginning, since him and Adam were the only two on the show, right? And I don't know why people are so quick. Like, his personal life is his fucking personal life.
Yeah.
What do I give a shit? I'm there
because you're a political analyst, or
I'm just trying to get his take because I think he has a pretty good center look at both sides.
Right.
Now, some could argue maybe he does call out one side a little more than the other. But I don't see him being a fan of the Republican Party at all.
No.
And I think the only reason he goes so hard on the Democrats is because of the shit
they're
going on, right?
They're giving them the meat and taters right now to do it, right?
But he calls out.
But I think if it was Republicans doing what the Dems have been doing, he'd be calling them out just as hard,
right?
If not, maybe even a little harder, because I think he's. I think he's more probably center left a little bit, but I like his show. To me, just seems to have one of the best kind of, like you said, fair. I think he's fair.
Right.
And I think he stands by his convictions. I think when he says he thinks something, it's because he really does believe that. Whether he's right or not, time will tell, but I do believe that he believes that.
And I like it because he's not over hyperbolic with shit, right?
Right.
I think he's just like, hey, this is what's going on, it could be this bad, but I'm thinking it's this, he's not out there Alex Jones in it,
Right.
And that's why I listen to him.
Yeah.
I think it's a good, just balanced, calm demeanor, just talking about what's going on.
Trying to work his way through it, and he will, I respect him, different times where he's been proved wrong, like he'll come out and say, hey, I was wrong about this.
He can't be right about everything.
No.
It's just his opinion.
Right.
And for people to come out and be like, oh, he's wrong about this and he's wrong about that. Well, you sit down for fucking 3 hours, 5, 6 hours a day.
Every day.
Going over news and reporting. You're going to get shit wrong.
Yeah, you're not going
to It's okay to be wrong.
He's not a robot. You know what I mean?
He's not out there peddling it.
Right.
Though, as intentionally putting false information out there as fact to try to manipulate people in a direction.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for Poole.
And
Yeah.
I just think it's so disingenuous for people to try to
Yeah, and I think there's a little
put
blood in the water.
their own personal finance, their own
Right.
personal persona ahead of
Yeah.
truth.
Right.
Especially now,
Yeah, there's
today,
just a lot of dirtiness, man.
when we need fair, balanced, truth, perspective. You know, I think he does a good job balancing the guest
I think so.
to get a balanced opinion and get people on there that are informed about specific things to help educate himself.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I think he tries to self-improve a lot,
Yeah.
you know, to evolve his way of thinking. And yeah, I like his show.
And Ian said the other day, I'd noticed this. I don't know if you remember in the beginning when he brought Ian on. Like, Ian constantly wanted to fight with him and argue with him, like, about shit.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
Ian was saying a lot more. Yeah, Ian was saying the other day, like, Tim finally pulled him aside. I was like, dude, like, this isn't a boxing match.
Right.
Like, we're not here to just banter and just
you know,
yell and fight back and forth.
He choreographs the show. He's the director, and you know, everyone else kind of.
I thought that was an interesting perspective. A little, you know, behind the scenes, like, you know, like
little realness.
Yeah, and I think Ian saw like, oh, okay, you know, like this isn't, you know, about him and I arguing. It's not Hannity and Combs here like debating issues. It's you know,
it's just.
Because I got real turned off by that shit myself. Yeah. You know, like they'd start getting into it, and I was like, oh god, like I'm not here for this.
Yeah, you spend too much time. Like I like listening to you debate back and forth, but man, when you start getting like argumentative, then you're not
voices
really.
Are elevated,
you're not talking facts anymore. It becomes a sideshow, right?
It becomes an ego trip.
Ego trip, and I don't want to watch that shit. I want the facts, you know, and debate them. You know, the meaning of them, sure. You know, because like I said, Ian, I've come a long ways with Ian. You know, there was a while where he just kind of drove me nuts, and you know, I've come to appreciate his way of thinking a lot more, and you know,
and I've said that many times here. You know, that I really appreciate his perspective, and this wasn't a jab at Ian by any means. Right. I'm just saying it was neat.
Yeah, because it was one of the conversations with me and you. Talking about that, and I was like, yeah, but Ian always wants to, man, he just goes off, and and you're like, listen, though, slow down and just, you know, hear him out, and I said, you know, you're right, I probably shouldn't be so judgmentative.
We need those alternate perspectives.
Right.
We need to have.
It's important.
I don't, and you know
challenge
why?
Those ideas.
And you know why? Because I lived in an echo chamber for so long. Right.
Right.
I didn't even want to hear any opposition other than someone validating my own opinions and my own views. And it was so ignorant of me.
Yeah.
That now I appreciate the shit out of listening to other opinions and other views.
Right.
Because it makes me really understand how I think about things.
Sure.
Not how someone.
Yeah, and you know, when you challenge the way I think of things, you know, you're giving out information that might challenge that. It's either I got to do the hard work and double down to make sure that I'm right on something, or I have to evolve the way I see it and adopt a, you know, alternative way of thinking about it. So either way, it's a win-win for me, right? To do that. So
it's easy to live inside that echo chamber.
Yeah.
But am I going to sit out here and call others out for doing the same thing? It's pretty hypocritical.
I like stepping out of my comfort zone now with that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. And that's why I appreciate those perspectives. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but the fact that I can be open-minded enough to sit there and just listen to it.
Yeah, that show's been through a lot lately, man. Like, to me, it just seemed like there's, you know, once there was a little blood in the water, all the little piranhas are starting to circle to nibble at them, and we'll see. You know.
And why? What benefit comes out of calling him out? And you know,
other than you want to sell your book, or you
wanted
some
bring
publicity.
attention to your show to try to grow your show bigger, and it's like
with Ye when he walked out on him like that. To me, you know, I was watching it. And I thought, this is staged. Come on, this has to be like, you know, there is no bad publicity, right? There's just publicity, but then, man, he went on Alex Jones and like, oof, I don't know, like.
I'm only an hour through their interview. I think I'm an hour and 12 minutes through the Alex Jones interview. I still have about 2 hours to go.
Because there was a few minutes, because look, the last time he was running, I just I didn't take it very serious, and like, yeah, whatever. I wouldn't vote for this guy if my life depended on it. But this go around, I thought, again, I'm trying to evolve and just give people that ability to talk. Let's hear what you have to say. So he's on Pool and he's talking, and for a couple minutes, he has my attention. He really does. He said a couple things, and I'm like, that actually makes sense. Like, I'm surprised I'm as plugged into this as I am. Like, okay, all right, you got me. Elaborate, go on. And instead of closing the deal, he gets up and he walks out, and I'm like, there you go. Now you lost me, dude. Like, you had a fair chance to sell this candidacy to me, and now you're gonna be an ass and walk out like that. Like, I don't care if Tim challenged you or not. Then argue it out. Debate it.
The point of it, right?
Yeah, it should have been the whole point to be able to show. Look, if you can't debate a little bit like that for more than 27 minutes without running away, like how are you gonna
get on national stage?
And deal with Putin or anyone else in the world that
I never took his run seriously.
No.
I never. I don't know. I think he's trying to. I assume this is. I don't even think this is about running. I think this is about his brand.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just trying to there's some wild conspiracies out there. I haven't even landed on one yet. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. There's 5 or 6 different real strong conspiracies that it could be, and I've kind of floated them. I haven't even landed on one yet. I'm not even deep enough down that rabbit hole to figure this out of what I really believe. Yeah. It's a mess.
It is.
It's a mess. And,
because I thought after hearing him on Lex Friedman toward the end, I thought Lex had kind of swayed him. Like, the language he was using wasn't good. Like, this isn't good for society. There's a lot of young people that look up to you and follow you. And when you're out here saying this shit, it could cause them to go maybe commit violence against a certain segment of the population. And I thought he was kind of like, okay, I could see that. And then it's like he doubled down now. And I'm like, you completely lost me. Like, you completely lost me. And then the shit he was saying on Alex Jones, like,
wow,
way out there. I'm just like, dude, you so lost me even trying to
And then he had that whole, the swastika in the middle of the Star of David, and now there's people saying, well, that technically is about this other religion, that's about aliens, and I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on. I need more time to tune out to tune into what I think my there's a conspiracy there. There's not a doubt in my mind. I just don't know which one yet, because this is bizarre, man. And I think it's a lot deeper than just, well, he's bipolar. I'm bipolar, man. I have mood swings. I get it.
I think he snapped.
Yeah, that's not bipolar. That is almost like a complete mental breakdown.
Because he doesn't seem like he's the same. When he was on Rogan, he doesn't seem anything like when I heard him on Lex.
But then when you see on Pool,
it's like progressing.
Before the cameras were on, he was different. So that almost leads me to believe that this is strategic, that there's something he's trying to, either he's trying to really hurt everyone that made money off of him, that had kind of tagged on to him, and he's just burning his image to the ground to I don't know. There's a couple conspiracies I've heard that could be. I know this. I'm not voting for the guy for president, though. Like, I think that bid is done. I don't think.
Oh, I never even entertained it.
Pool did, and he said, maybe he can win. Even after he had been on Pool's show, he kind of stuck up for him and said, I actually believe this guy might be able to do this. And even he came out and said, yeah, not now. No, not after that meltdown on Jones's show. Like, that pretty much put the nails in the coffin on that one. Like, there's no, but you had, was it Milo there, and I don't know, man. There's something going on there that's just, it's not.
It's weird. It is weird.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. But then they stuck up for Trump on Pool show. They could have, said, yeah, he knew this guy was a white supremacist and a racist, and They were like, doing the whole Hail Hitler thing, before we ate turkey.
But why'd they take him there knowing that it was going to cause shit in the press?
And then turn around and admit Trump didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Like, why'd you throw him a lifeline then? Like, what is going on? It's weird, man.
Confusing.
I don't know. It's politics. Jesus. It's like reality TV anymore, I do think that, they said Trump broke the wheel, and, I think in some ways he really did. By him pulling off that presidency and being elected. Like, he turned it into, like, the Apprentice.
Yeah.
It's like a reality show anymore, I don't know. I'm curious to see. Should be an interesting couple of years. We'll just say that.
No doubt.
Politically, anyways.
Well, even fiscally too.
Yeah. Fiscally, this is going to be
economy.
This is going to be crazy, like scary crazy. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, politically, it'll be kind of a fun crazy, just to kind of watch like the shit happen that you never thought you'd see in your life. But fiscally, I'm nervous. Like I just don't think things are gonna go in a good direction for a while, and I don't think we've hit the bottom of this yet. I think it's gonna get.
No way.
I bought.
We might have just started coming out of 2008 in 19.
Yeah. And this, I think, is going to be worse.
And you figure the crash of 2008 really started somewhere around 2006, 2007 is when it really started picking up steam. So if you can consider 19, we had probably really got this bitch running back on the tracks, right, up to speed.
So that tells you, by that model, forecasting by that model, like, you're not even close to hitting the bottom.
And this was even...
I could tell you, I went to the store and I got my son some apple juice.
Yeah.
It was like a gallon of apple juice. It was like over $8. I said, holy shit, that's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is double of what it was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe it. Just, wow. And, like, every time I go to the store and I buy just a few things, and it's just the bill's higher and higher, and just it's a little unnerving.
Mm-hmm.
I think things are gonna get rough, man. I really believe that in my heart. Things are gonna get worse.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I can't see this. Just doesn't turn around in a year.
And I don't care who you elect as president. No, you're not flipping this over. Right away.
And people want to give Trump all the praise for the great economy in 19, but it's like, you got to understand, Obama had, has to have some credit for that too, because he got, because he, you could say but it's not an administration's economy.
No.
It's just things got better or worse while they were there. Now, granted,
they influence it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, no doubt. I'm not saying, I'm not giving them a free pass. But at the same time, I'm also not naive that just because Trump got in there all of a sudden in a year and a half, everything was fabulous.
I think he did some good things.
There was momentum building.
Sure.
And he caught the ride at the right time, and he was able to add to that.
Riding the wave, right?
Right.
And I think he did some good things. I think, did he bring some jobs back here? Yeah, I do believe he did. Yeah. I think he strong-armed companies that have been taking advantage of the system for a while, and he muscled them and brought some jobs back here. I think he had a good impact. Was it his economy? No. I agree with you. It's a roll of dice, man. The pendulum of the economy swings back and forth, and you're either the president when it's good or you're the president when it's bad.
Like you said, I do agree. They can make some adjustments. It can have minor effects, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it has as much of an impact as they try to sell it as.
No, I don't. I agree. It's not the president's economy. You know what I mean? Like, they get rewarded or praised or complained about for it. But the economy's a lot more complicated than that. It's not that simple. It's just, there's a Republican president, the economy's going to be great now. No, because the economy sucked under Republicans at different times too.
Right.
It's
Right.
yeah, it'll be real interesting to see 2023. I think that's going to be a rough year.
Yeah, probably. I mean, no doubt. I think we have about, if history's any indicator, it's probably 10 years before we start really gaining momentum again.
Yep.
Things really get good again, and inflation gets under control, and wages go up, and prices come down, and that's if we don't end up in fucking World War III, and
other things that could have a real negative impact and draw this out even longer. Yeah, we'll see.
That's if.
Interesting
the
times
harvest
to
is
live
good.
in.
I don't even know what the harvest.
Yeah, is there going to be a drought? Is it? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm saying even for like this year, I don't know what the harvest was. I don't.
Different parts of the globe have been different. There were parts of the country where they said it's from what I've read, it's great. There's other parts of the country that said, oh, it was terrible. They didn't get the fertilizer that they needed, and the amount of diesel, the expense of that, and just the crops they were getting were, half the bushels they used to, and I don't know. It's been very mixed reports that I've gotten.
Right.
So,
and I was talking more specific to the U.S.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about in the U.S. They were, So, well, interesting times to live in, I think we got a couple of really bad years coming ahead of us that are going to be hard to, just have to buckle down and muscle through it, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the human race has survived worse.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking of some of the was it the year 536, I think it is, a catastrophic event happened, and now they believe it was one of the super volcanoes went off and put us in a nuclear winter basically for 2 years of really no sun shining and mass crop failure and death of lots of animals, and millions of humans died during that time, and the bubonic plague kicked off, and I did learn something about that. That was cold temperatures is kind of what kicks that off. Like the fleas carry this bacteria in them, but it's only when it's cold does it block off their stomach, where they start biting everything because essentially they're starving to death, and then they pass that bacteria on, and from rats to humans, and they spread it around. But when it's warm, it was like that's why it had kicked off so bad. I think they believe it had started in Ethiopia because it was a warm climate, and once you had that cooling because of all the dust that was in the air from the volcanic eruption, that the fleas, it blocks their stomach off, and they can't just pass that bacteria out in their stool. So and they're starving to death technically, so they bite a lot more, and it was going from rats to humans, the black rats specifically, that kicked it off. It was really crazy. They were showing like x-rays of the fleas, the ones that were infected and the ones that weren't, and it was just really wild.
But it still exists today.
Yeah.
But it's curable.
Right.
That's why we won't have another. Yeah, because I don't know if most people understand this, but yeah.
Yeah, it was just a couple years ago they had an outbreak in California, and they thought it was from the ground squirrels in the campground.
Yeah, and antibiotics pretty much treat it. So they had antibiotics, and it wouldn't have been.
But man, the deaths, those people, oh God, they were getting blisters in their armpits and in their groins, the big giant blisters, and then they would pop and ooze, but then they'd get gangrene in them, and they'd become septic and die. The people were bleeding from their eyes. They said a lot of people was their bile, like from their stomach, just having really bad bowel movements, and just like it was a really terrible way of dying. High fevers, and it was me and my documentaries,
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it was.
To learn.
Yeah, it was different. It was a I definitely learned some shit from it that I didn't know.
And to think, like, we still reproduced and we still
Yeah.
survived.
So
Like,
not only did we survive basically a mini ice age and mass famine, and then to come out of it and then survive the plague, and and look at the population in the world, like humans are pretty resilient. That was millions of humans died, but enough of us survived that we repopulated.
how horny must men have been to pick fleas off women, kissing their neck when they haven't bathed for a month, and
Right.
still want to
Oh yeah.
procreate?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Man, they were talking about one of the tribes that
You know they weren't shaving their armpits and shit and their
no,
legs and like
no, man,
they're wearing all those big
yeah,
clothing and oh.
they were one of the shows I was watching was the Ottoman, like, so they were horse tribe people, and it was when there was Constantinople, the city that became Istanbul,
Okay.
eventually, but how they were horse people. Basically, they were like experts in breeding horses and things like that. But a lot of the tribes around there were just like the Chinese described them as just being gross because they wouldn't bathe and they would never wash their clothes. And the funny thing was like their plates, they would clean them by having the women lick them clean. And like the Chinese were just horrified by these like barbaric, gross people. And then during a volcanic eruption and the sun being gone for a year or two, their population got really beat down by some of the other tribes people because they bred cattle. Well, horses are a lot more sensitive in what they can eat than cows are. So a lot of their horses starved to death because there just wasn't good grass for them to eat. So they started migrating and they were getting their ass kicked by these other tribes that had cows because cows are more resilient to being able to eat shitty grass and they digest it better. And they were pulling dung apart, and it was like the horse dung was very fibrous. You could tell the grass isn't digested nearly as well as like the cattle dung. And because it pushed them south, eventually they got into areas where the greener pastures and they repopulated their strength, and that's how they ended up attacking that Roman city and turning it into Istanbul, or however you pronounce it, Istanbul.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty, but it was all the events all started from losing the sun for 2 years and all the grass dying. Like, had that not happened, like even that, like, and they were saying like when you have these catastrophic events, like sometimes you don't see how things. It takes 100 years for everything to play out the way the effects of that could take 100 years to show.
Really?
I was like, wow. So when you were talking about like the economy, for 10 years, like absolutely, sometimes it takes a long time for these things to unfold. Man, I've watched some great documentaries lately though, just fascinating stuff,
I'm just trying to see what humans look like in the 1500s.
I think it depends on where in the world,
right. That's why I just did like a general, like.
The one I was watching this morning was about, harems, and they don't even pronounce it harem. Like, I always heard it was pronounced harem, and that was your, bunch of women that you had, and it's harem? Harem, I think, is the real. I didn't know that. Like, those girls were like, they were taught, they were slaves, and when you were beautiful enough, you were brought into the harem, and then they would teach you how to bathe, when to bathe, and there was a queen, one of the queens from Europe had sent an organ over as a gift to the princes over, I think it was Turkey at that time, and she sent an engineer over to set it up, and he was watching them through a window and describing what they look like, and he said the pants were so thin it was like you could see their skin through it. He said he was staring so hard that all the women were so beautiful that eventually it must have been a guard come over with a staff and like beat it on the ground in front of him, like turn your head and go away. Yeah, he probably about got his ass beheaded for that, you know.
Humans are just so weird.
Yeah,
man.
it's just
like,
crazy.
Like harems of, and then you talk about the animal kingdom, right?
Yep.
Like elk have a harem.
Yeah.
Of cows, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
But then,
well, they wanted the Soldan to have the best of the best, to have the best life, so the best women and multiple women, and you know, he said, was it polygamy was it's okay for them to do it, but it was actually kind of rare, which was something I didn't know. I figured it was really common in that area of the world, that lots of them had, you know, up to 4 wives and then lots of concubines. But actually, it was kind of rare. A lot of people, even though legally they could do it and the religion was okay with them doing it, a lot of them didn't.
Well, you'd think from an economic standpoint, it wouldn't be feasible for most people to have 4 separate families. Yep. You got to feed all those people, and you have to clothe all those people, and house all those people, and it's like.
And we're showing like the concubines, the differences when they would become impregnated by the Sultan versus like the queen, you know, his wife, and how they didn't even have rights with the children the same as the mother did if you were, you know, married to the Sultan, one of his wives, and had his child. You had more rights over your child than one of the concubines did. So it was really crazy, just, you know, to see the way the world is different, so different in different places.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know,
and it still is.
Still is. Yep, still is.
Well, we're about 2 hours deep in this.
Yeah, I think it was a good one.
Let's call it a day.
Yeah.
I got shit to do.
Do your like, subscribe.
Yes, please like, subscribe, share, thumbs up, bell. Follow us on all the socials.
Just hit the thumbs up, man. Just
leave a comment down below.
Yeah.
Insta, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, any place.
Yeah, just about all
Minds.
of them. Yeah.
Yep. Let us know what you guys think. Thanks, guys. Peace and love.